showtime.
It's the pre-party with J. Cal.
We are professional wrestling.
I'm building an alliance.
You are tuned into
the absolute top of the mountain, the ultimate professional wrestling.
Alliance-wrestling.com.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is J. Cal, and I'm happy to have you here with me today as we discuss the ins and outs of the National Wrestling Alliance. Of course, NWA POWERRR is tonight. We've got a world title match, even more than that, right? There's also the Crockett Cup has been announced. They have a location. They've already announced a couple of teams. We're going to get to that. The junior heavyweight tournament has further expanded. We've got all the names set up for the semifinals. Man, what a time to be alive. What a time to be a fan of the NWA. I see I got a bunch of my buddies already here. I've got Willie Bowen's in the house. Willie Bowen, Bobby Petito. Welcome, welcome. How you guys doing? Good to see you. Pro Wrestling Zone podcast is here. Rick Del Santo, my friend, my compadre, my brother. What is up? Terry McDermott's here. Guys, I'm so happy that you're here with us today. And again, we're here to talk NWA every weekend, every week out with you, our loyal NWA fam. And that's the same fam we're all part of, right? The World's Heavyweight Championship will be determined tonight because we got Mike Knox, Trevor Murdoch, Part 2. The Electric Boogaloo here at the NWA POWERRR. We're going to see the title on the line. That's the first time that the title has been on the line on an episode of POWERRR for a while. In fact, the last time that the 10 pounds of gold was defended on an episode of POWERRR, you have to go all the way back to December 16th, 2019, when Nick Aldis defended his title against Ricky Morton. That's some time ago, right? Now, I'm not saying that the World Heavyweight Championship hasn't been featured on the program. We saw a lot of Nick Aldis. We saw a lot of Trevor Murdoch, but this is the first time that the title has been defended in a while on POWERRR. I think it's kind of cool myself, personally. I think that's a lot of fun. What do you guys think? Are you guys excited to see the World's Heavyweight Champion defend on POWERRR? Of course, you have to be subscribed to NWA POWERRR, the full all access, NWA all access on Fight to watch tonight. Otherwise, you're waiting until Friday, which either one of those is not a bad deal. But personally, I don't like waiting, and of course, we get an opportunity to watch POWERRR tonight, so I'm all about that. I see Fiona's in the house, Dave Scooby's in the house. Welcome. Glad you guys could be here. There's a lot of fun stuff happening right now. Dodie says more the world title being defended, the better. I do agree with you on that one, Dodie. It's funny. When POWERRR started, my biggest concern was that we would have an oversaturation of title matches. Because when you just look at it on the surface, when POWERRR kicked off, we had a World Heavyweight Champion, a Women's World Champion, World Tag Team Champions, and a National Champion. Now, that's 4 champions. That, in my mind, that means that there should be 4 title defenses every week on POWERRR. We haven't had that, and I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing or not. But we've since then we've included the TV title, and now the women's tag team title, and now the World Junior Heavyweight title. So there's an abundance of championships, and very rarely do we see those titles defended on POWERRR. That are more reserved for the premier live events. And as a fan of the premier live events, again, you have to be subscribed to the Fight All Access in order to get those for free. Otherwise, you're paying for those for that content. So our pal Terry McDermott says, great to see the 10 pounds tonight. We are due. It's a good episode of POWERRR. I think it's going to be. I mean, look, last week's episode of POWERRR was a Power Surge episode, and it was hosted by the Fixers. And honestly, I thought it was a pretty good show, considering that it was, the Power Surges never give you the full power experience. It did feature a pay-per-view match. If you hadn't seen it, it was new to you, tying the junior heavyweight division together. It also had a really good match between Maddie Radikowski and Miss Kylie Ray, Smiley Kylie Ray. A really good match. And then, of course, the Fixers in the main event. It's a fun little squash match. It was good for that. So I think it's always a good thing when you have the 10 pounds of gold or any of the championships defended on the program, and it's not something we see very too often. So I'm excited to see that tonight. Of course, Dodie also says that we want the title defense at POWERRR Trip too. Yeah, Dodie, but what title match do you want? Do you want the 10 pounds of gold versus Matt Cardona? Who do you want to see? Who do you want to see Trevor Murdoch face next? I guess is the appropriate question, right? Like, who is he going to challenge? Who is he going to defend against next? With more news out of the NWA, of course, we just heard yesterday that the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, first announcement for the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame, the Briscoe brothers, them boys, are headed back to the Crockett Cup. In fact, they're the only team so far that's been announced that is heading back to the Crockett Cup. And I'm kind of excited to see what they're going to bring to the table, because last year they came out and they beat up the Rock and Roll Express, which, always excited to see those guys get beat up. Just kidding, guys. Just kidding. And then they were disqualified when they brought a chair in to face Brody King and PCO. Now, Brody King and PCO, as you guys know, went on to win the tournament, win the tag titles. So this is a little bit of a redemption arc for the Briscoe Bros. And let's see if they're going to come in and are they really going to challenge for these belts? Are they looking to, get far into the tournament? Are they looking to win the whole thing? I mean, if I were them, I'd certainly want to have some revenge from last year. Of course, they're not going to have an opportunity to face PCO and Brody King, but nevertheless, it's time. The time is right for the Briscoes, essentially free agents. They won't be back with Ring of Honor till Supercard of Honor, which is WrestleMania weekend. They just finished their commitments with Game Changer Wrestling, dropping the titles to the Hate Club. I think that's what they're called. Nick Cage and Matt Tremont. So, yeah, it's a good time for them to make an impact, no pun intended, in the National Wrestling Alliance. When you look back at that tag team, the Briscoes, they've challenged for the World Tag Team Titles championships in the past when they were a part of Subtle Hustle. Now, that was the show in Florida when the Sheik defeated Colt Boom Boom Cabana to win the 10 pounds of gold. But that was also the night that the Briscoes challenged the Dark City Fight Club for the NWA Tag Team titles. So there's your little bit of history to go with what's going on. And then, of course, longtime fans of the NWA know that the Briscoes, for a brief time, wrestled in NWA Wildside. That's the Bill Barron's promotion that was based out of Cornelia, Georgia. And they were the Wildside Tag Team Champions. So they have history with the NWA. I mean, it's not as rich as we all would have liked, but I mean, they've been a part of the NWA over the last couple of decades. Well, at least in the last 15, 20 years, they've been part of the NWA. So it's kind of cool to see them back for the Crockett Cup. And then, of course, we've heard that the British Invasion will be a part of the tournament. Of course, British Invasion is mostly a creation of Impact Wrestling, but they have transitioned now into the NWA with Doug Williams teaming up with the former World Heavyweight Champion, two-time champion Nick Aldis, trying to recreate that magic that they had in Impact Wrestling. They already had their first, was it their first or second match? And then I guess it was their second match this weekend against Strictly Business, and you all saw how that went on NWA USA. But again, you can check that out on YouTube or on Fight. Doesn't really matter where you're checking it out at, but that's available to you. And then the World Tag Team Champions have included themselves into this tournament, so we're going to see La Rebellion. I'm not sure how it works out as they are currently the Tag Team Champions. I don't know if the titles will be on the line. I don't know if the titles are taken from them and made part of the tournament. I'm not entirely sure, but La Rebellion will be there. You know, Beastia 666 and Mecha Wolf. They were on our Pals podcast the other night. This is Pro Wrestling, their new NWA weekly show that airs on Mondays on the NWA YouTube channel. You can check that out. And point blank, they want to go to war with everybody. They want to prove that they're the best tag team. So we'll see what Mecha Wolf and Beastia can bring to this tournament. And then the other name that was announced in the press release is Strictly Business, and that would be Tom Latimer and Chris Adonis. Now, the drawback to having Adonis and Latimer in the tournament, not that they're not a good enough tag team, but Adonis is also your national champion. So with the foregone conclusion that their matches will be spent in a tournament, there won't be a lot of time for Adonis to defend that national championship if he is still national champion when it gets to the Crockett Cup. Because remember, he's going to be facing Anthony Mayweather at POWERRR Trip, and that takes place this February 12th. And just when I guess we're about 11 days away from that show. So a lot of fun stuff in the NWA. We talked about how the ball hadn't been moving, how the needle hadn't been moving, but it's moving now, and it's moving at breakneck speed. Again, tickets for the Crockett Cup go on sale this Friday. It's a 2-night tournament. This is different than it's been in years past because having the 2 nights gives us the opportunity to have more matches. And I guess the similar will be similar to how they set up the 73rd and Empower. I think this was actually a really wise decision by doing a 2-night tournament. Allows them to put more content into these 2 pay-per-views, right? And just like in Power and in the 73rd, you have your fans there. You might as well make this available via the pay-per-view. So, again, I feel like there's a lot of good stuff coming, a lot of good stuff we're starting to see now. And then you have a bunch of guys out there petitioning to get into this tournament. I've seen the former NWA World Tag Team Champions, the Heat Seekers, outside of the NWA. I've been trying to get rumblings with the Bodega or the 5150 from MLW to get into this tournament. Some people think that the Von Erichs, Marshall and Ross Von Erich may be a part of the tournament. I haven't seen anything to confirm that yet, but if we hear about it, of course, we'll post it at alliance-wrestling.com. And of course, the biggest rumor, the one that I think everybody wants to see, but who knows if it's going to happen, and that's FTR, right? FTR, formerly known as the Revival, I almost said the other word, in the WWE, with both those guys having a history in the Mid-Atlantic area, and, you know, with wrestling and the history of tag team wrestling, I think that would be quite a feather to put in their cap if they were to, get into the tournament. Well, we'll see how that goes, right? There's still more names to be announced. Like I said, the Rude Dudes want to be in. Hawk Ari want to be in. The End want to be in. I'm sure the Dirty Sexy Boys want to be there. I'm sure the Ill Begotten would like to be there. Of course, the Fixers, right? Everyone is going to want to be in this tournament. But we'll see how this all plays out. Because, again, I believe they said 16 teams, and we've announced 4. So there's a lot of room, right? Well, let's just count on our fingers, right? So I gave you the first 4. They're guaranteed entry, and that's the Briscoes, the British Invasion, La Rebellion, and the Strictly Business. So that's your first 4, right? And then on top of that, you could assume, these are just assumptions, nothing's been announced yet, but Hawkari, the Dirty Sexy Boys, the End, the Fixers, the Ill Begotten, and am I leaving someone out? Because that's like another 9. That's a total of 9 teams. If it's 16 teams, that means there's still room for 7 more tag teams we haven't even spoken about. And I'm sure that means like teams like the OG Kingdom, perhaps maybe a team from Impact Wrestling. I know that they have no problem sharing talent. But let's get to some of your comments, because I see a lot of you guys are posting stuff. And Doty says, yes, he wants Trevor and Matt at POWERRR Trip. It'd be a good warm-up before the Crockett Cup. I mean, it would really change things quite significantly in the NWA if Trevor were to lose the 10 pounds of gold to Matt Cardona, but it might shake things up in a very positive way too. Sean Mega says NWA USA was really good in my opinion. I watched the junior heavyweight match. That's where I put a lot of my focus on. I was not able to watch the entire episode, but the junior heavyweight match was something different. Like again, we'll get to the junior heavyweight tournament while we're here. Obviously, this was taped before the transition, before Sal became, Rinauro. I don't know what they're calling him now as part of Father James Mitchell's repertoire, whatever they're calling themselves. But he was certainly the old Sal with a little bit of angst and animosity. And Darius Lockhart got the match. It's a pretty good bout, but it just was a little strange to see him transition back to, like the Sal that we were used to seeing. So that took the tournament. Let's get rid of that comment real quick. That took the tournament. So we had, of course, we've got Austin Aries, Luke Hawk, Colby Carino, Kerry Morton. I have trouble with his name. Aria Davari, and now Darius Lockhart. Now we're really getting somewhere, right? Because as the tournament is shaping up, I mean, who do you got? Aries or Hawk? Carino or Morton? Davari or Lockhart? And then, of course, the three of those winners will face Homicide in a four-way match for that World Junior Heavyweight Championship. Excuse me. It's safe to assume that match is going to happen at the Crockett Cup, but we still don't even know that for certain. And if it does happen at Crockett Cup, is Luke Hawk going to be a part of a four-way and in a tag team tournament? They might be overplaying their hands there when it comes to the tournament. But anyways, Sean Mega says it's not enough time to promote the show. Not sure what you mean, Sean, but we'll see. Lamb says, hopefully Crimson gets the national title and finally someone do something with it. Absolutely. It's been pretty hard to watch that national championship. Like when you think back to when Willie Mack won the title at the first Crockett Cup under Billy Corgan, they were talking about, excuse me, I take that back, not at the Crockett Cup, at the 70th anniversary show, when he won that title. And then he wanted to take it and defend it everywhere. Like he had aspirations to defend in Arizona. He had aspirations to defend all across the United States. And he did have a couple of defenses. Of course, he had one in Hollywood. I believe he had one in Arizona. And then he had his defense in Charlotte, where he lost to Colt Boom Boom Cabana. Cabana then took the title and had matches in Ring of Honor, as well as the first season of POWERRR. Then the title transition from Cabana to Stevens. Stevens had it. Stevens defended it a few times on POWERRR, then it ultimately lost to Trevor Murdoch at Primetime Live in Long Beach, California. Murdoch lost the title to Adonis on the second episode of POWERRR. Maybe it was the third, when they came back from the pandemic, and the title's been around Adonis's waist ever since. Even though he forfeited it, he still was able to win the title back, but ultimately has only defended the title like 2 or 3 times in the span of nearly a year holding the title. So I think we're all ready to see something different with the championship. Even if you want to keep the belt on Adonis, that's fine. Let's just get that match out there and have some more title matches. Dave Scooby asked, does Double J show up at the fairgrounds? Now, Double J was a part of the 70th anniversary show. He was kind of like the MC for the night. And, between what he's doing for Game Changer Wrestling, it sounds like he's heading to the world-class wrestling, world-class championship wrestling revolution. I don't even know for sure what it's called, but the new promotion in Texas that seemingly has absorbed what SWE Fury was, has announced that Jarrett will be a part of that group. So maybe not. We'll see. Terry McDermott says it's good to see some wrestlers going after Adonis for the national championships. Cyon now is wanting a shot. I mean, Cyon's kind of all over the place, right? Like he tried to get the belt off of Tyrus to no avail. He said that he wants to be a champion in the NWA, but again, has not really had the best of luck. He takes on Sal Rinauro tonight. So we'll see how that goes for him. Doty mentions that 2 nights in a 1,500 capacity Assylum. I hope Billy knows what he's doing, not just a nostalgia pandering venture. That's interesting that you would say that, Doty. 1,500 capacity. Now, I was there for the 70th anniversary show, and yeah, I mean, maybe it was a little bit less than the entire 1,500, but it was a packed venue that night, and they don't have the benefit of having Cody Rhodes versus Nick Aldis Part 2 as the main event. But I do feel like this tag team tournament, depending on who is entered, could be really big, a really big deal. Like, could we see a return of the Rock and Roll Express? Could we see Ricky Morton and Kenny Morton return to the tag team competition as part of the Crockett Cup? And then, of course, when you talk about the teams that are potentially out there, the FTR, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think a lot of people would be very invested in an FTR in the Crockett Cup tournament. Sean Mega says Billy has to give Tony Khan a million shout outs for that to happen. I mean, look, at the end of the day, right, the NWA is its own wrestling promotion, just like AEW is their own wrestling promotion. And even if AEW doesn't have specific plans for FTR at the very moment, they are still signed to AEW. So for the Revival to have an opportunity to wrestle in the NWA, I mean, it really is just Tony saying yes or no. But at the same time, if you're Tony Khan, the NWA isn't direct competition to AEW in terms of, like, you know, it's not going to steal the demo from Dynamite or from Rampage. But what it could, you know, where they could have a conflict is the Elevation and Dark that are on YouTube that do kind of compete for attention with the NWA. So I can kind of see not wanting to deal with the NWA at this point anymore, because they are kind of your competition now that their product is available on YouTube. There are so many hours in the day. Doty says that's all up to Tony Khan for the FTR. Last time AEW sent wrestlers to the NWA show, Tony ran like a crybaby asking for more acknowledgement. Again, I don't know all the details behind that, but I mean, if you think about it, if I'm Tony Khan and I did send my wrestlers and I paid my wrestlers, I mean, there should have been more of a big deal made for Tony Khan. If that's the case, if Billy didn't have to pay Killian King or Sahara 7 or Red Velvet, if he didn't pay for any of those talents to appear, then maybe he should be getting more. Tony should be getting more praise for the pay-per-view for Empower. Terry McDermott says, I am sure Sal and Mims will have partners and will be in the Crockett Cup. I mean, that's very well a possibility. I mean, you could easily put Mims with his former trainer, turned friend, Mayweather, you know, if Mayweather isn't challenging for a title. And of course, Sal and Judas, I mean, it's kind of already seems like that would be a tag team that they can go with. Hey, Hustler's in the house. What's up, man? Then Doty says, I want the Saito twins and Team Ambition's technical difficulties as for native teams, of course, Ari, Rude Dudes, and he wants to see more of El Rudo. You know, the reason why we haven't seen a lot of El Rudo at these tapings is because he was wrestling AAA's pay-per-view that same weekend, so he didn't have a lot of time to be at the NWA. Of course, he is contracted to AAA first and foremost. The NWA is fun, and the NWA is like a second home to him, but make no mistake, Adonis is in Rudo is an AAA guy first. Fiona is buzzing for Crockett Cup. We're trying to put together maybe an alliance brunch or something before Saturday's pay-per-view. I haven't worked out all the kinks yet, and I'm going to find out who's all interested. But, you know, the guy that used to do the podcast for the NWA, he had a meet and drink, and that was a lot of fun. I was a part of that, and I met a lot of good people there. I met a lot of friends who I still talk to today, and we share our NWA stories. And maybe, just maybe, we'll do a meet and drink part 2 where fans of the NWA can kind of meet up, and we can do an alliance meet and greet where get some barbecue and some bourbon or something. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Let's see. More of your comments. Sorry, it's hard to see the screen. Dodie says the strongest candidate is either Austin Aries, Colby Carino, and Darius Lockhart. And then he goes to either Lockhart or Colby. I think you mean for the pay-per-view or for the junior heavyweight championship. My money is still on Austin Aries. I know there's a lot of talk of Homicide. I don't think that you can go wrong with either one of those men. Either one of them would be a great addition to the championship circle that is the NWA. However, I think either man is just really holding that spot to help get the belt over for a guy like Colby Carino or a guy like Darius Lockhart. And I could see them becoming embattled in a feud down the road. Dave says he's stoked to be heading to the fairgrounds for the Crockett Cup. Hopefully POWERRR Trip sets up some good rivalries. Yeah, I mean, like, look, when we and I do have those matches here. We'll get to those in just a second. When we look at POWERRR Trip, I mean, there's already a couple matches announced. Of course, you've got Rhett Titus and Colby Carino. I think that's going to be a great matchup, a showcase of the junior heavyweight division, and really will be telling. Look, Rhett Titus is the current Ring of Honor television champion. So a win for Colby Carino is certainly a feather in his hat. A win for Rhett Titus kind of sets him up for an opportunity to challenge for that junior heavyweight title down the road. I think that's going to be a real exciting match at POWERRR Trip. Of course, we've got this amalgamation of talent for the 8-man tag. When you've got the Austin Idol Sports Management Inc. with the church's money and so much to say. I mean, you've got Tyrus not defending the TV title, Jordan Clearwater, Marche Rocket, and Black G's, and they're scheduled to go against Cyon, and then Mims, and then of course Ill Begotten members Rush Freeman and Alex Taylor. Now, the thing that gets me about this is, why isn't Captain Yuma in there instead of Mims? They're part of a trio, the Ill Begotten. It would just make sense that maybe he would be in there with Cyon, but nevertheless. And then, of course, this women's matchup, I mean, I think this one is a very telling match for Kylie Ray and for Chelsea Green. Now, Chelsea Green is still working with the NWA. Of course, her husband is pursuing the 10 pounds of gold. So I think we'll keep seeing more of Chelsea Green and Matt Cardona for the foreseeable future. But adding Kylie Ray into this match, I think those two are going to put down a hell of a match. Kylie Ray and Maddie Wardikowski had a great match just a few weeks ago on, I guess it was last week on POWERRR. And it was such a fun match, or POWERRR Surge, excuse me. I'm expecting big things out of this one. Chelsea Green did win the first POWERRR Women's Inaugural, I don't even know what that was actually called, the Battle Royal, I guess. She won that. She had that trophy. She had to cash in. She failed to cash in, but, she proved herself to be quite a viable wrestler. And, of course, then we have that I Quit match with Aldis and Tom Latimer. I mean, those two, this is the match that should have had at Hard Times. It should have been a hard, really impactful match, and I felt like Hard Times kind of fell short on that. And maybe that's because they already had the gimmick of Knox and Trevor Murdoch, but I felt like their matchup at Hard Times 2 should have been more like an I Quit match. And of course, a women's championship match. Taryn Terrell, I mean, let's be honest, has done absolutely nothing to deserve this title shot. You can't prove me wrong. The only reason why she's getting this shot is because what she's done in the past, which, I mean, we could celebrate, but at the same time, that's what Melina's been complaining about, why she hasn't been named number one contender. Look at everything that she's done in the past. it's kind of hypocritical for the NWA to put Taryn Terrell there. But, she's not a bad athlete. She's actually a real phenomenal athlete. And for her to be in this match with Camille, I think either we're going to see a great Taryn Terrell match that we hadn't seen since she's been in the NWA, or it's just going to be a curb stomp by Camille. And, of course, the other title match that's been announced is the national championship with Chris Adonis and Anthony Mayweather. We're still 2 weeks away, so things could change. But I really feel like the team of this matchup might be the best match on the card, because you've got a motivated Anthony Mayweather who wants to prove that he deserves to be part of the championship circle in the NWA. And then you got a guy like Chris Adonis who now's the time, right? Now's the time for him to start showing what he's capable of. We haven't seen a whole lot out of Adonis since he's been in the NWA, and I think a matchup between him and Mayweather could be made for TV type wrestling. So I'm very excited about Power Trip. I hope you guys are too. Looking at some more of the comments, Willie Bone wants to see Jax Dane versus Trevor Murdoch. See some more comments. Matt Mueller's in the house, and he's got big hopes for the Crockett Cup. And thanks for checking us out, Matt. I do appreciate you. We're here every Tuesday at this time from 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific. It's the hour before Power, baby, the pre-party. And then, of course, on Thursday nights, my pals, my confidants, my best friends, DKM, Jaden, and former NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion Kevin Frazier. The four of us break down the episode of Power that you're probably going to watch here momentarily. And so we really do try to have that honest discussion about what we thought of the NWA program that week, whether it be Power, Power Surge, whatever. Hope you guys join us for that too. And again, that is on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, the NWA Power Recap. Call that the Alliance Guys podcast. And again, a lot of interesting things going on for the NWA. It's an exciting time to be a fan. We keep talking about, this forbidden door, that's almost been exercised to its fullest. Last week we saw, if you guys watched the Royal Rumble, you saw Knockouts champion NWA producer challenged for the NWA tag team titles, women's tag team titles recently. Mickie James make her foray back into the WWE as part of that battle royal. We saw Melina. Melina was number 2 in the women's Royal Rumble. Was not very impactful, pardon the pun, but it was good to see her out there. It was nice to see her get an opportunity to be there. That reaction for her was pretty cool, and I hope it didn't go wasted on the WWE. I hope they heard those cheers just for Melina's sake. I mean, this has nothing to do with the NWA, but as someone who's given a lot of her heart and soul to the NWA for the last year, I would like for her to have another big moment for the WWE. Matt says he's been sharing us on wrestling groups. Well, hey, man, I do appreciate that. We have seen a growth in subscribers and viewership, so I do appreciate you plugging that away. As our buddy Lamb would say, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. If you also leave a comment, that would be great too, because it helps with the algorithm and all that stuff. I'm not super knowledgeable when it comes to how to grow that YouTube audience, as my pal Certified Hustler likes to point out on social media. But we've got a slow, steady growth here. We've been podcasting on YouTube since 2018, and we've been really gone after it since Power. We've done a pre-show for almost every episode of Power, and we have been doing regular post shows since about the same for pretty much every episode of Power. So we've been doing it for a couple of years now, and hopefully people keep checking it out, because that's what we're here. We're here to make a community. We're here to give you guys an opportunity to hear different opinions, and we like to hear your opinions too. That's why we read your comments in the comments section. Matt Mueller says that if Kylie and Chelsea Green are into it, they could put on a great match at Power Trip. I mean, I really liked Maddie Wernikowski versus Kylie Ray. That would have been my match of the year for the women so far. And I know that's only a couple of days into the new year. I mean, it's just now February 1st, right? But that's a very high ceiling. If Kylie Ray and Chelsea Green bring their work boots, I mean, they could certainly have a phenomenal match, maybe even better than what Maddie and Kylie did just a few weeks ago. Bobby Benzito says he wants to see Khan and Mosses wrestle at the Crockett Cup. Not too familiar with them. Sorry, I don't know who they are. Terry says he loves the British wrestling. Looking forward to Aldis and Tom in a true brutal bout. Yeah, I mean, if somebody tried to end my career, I'm not going to go in there and have a wrestling match. It's going to be a fight. I'm going to cheat if I have to. I'm going to hit him with the chair. I'm going to hit him with the table. I'm going to take the shoelaces off my boots and choke him out with it. I mean, I'm going to have some hostility, some hate in my heart for that person. And when that same person disparages my family name and mocks my son, like, no, I'm not going to go out there and just have a nice little match. It's going to be a war. And I really feel like they dropped the ball at the hard times too. And that should have been more of a war. It should have been a war. Dave Scooby says if Mayweather takes the national title, I hope Jack goes after him with his title shot. That would be fun too. So the only title that Jax hasn't held in the National Wrestling Alliance that he's qualified to hold would actually be the television title. Now I know with Mr. Tyrus as champion, I don't think you're going to see a heel challenging the heel. I don't think you'll see Jax go after Tyrus. But that's the match I'd actually prefer to see, mostly because I think once Jax Dane gets rid of Mr. Tyrus, not only would we have somebody holding this belt that I respect quite a deal, but I think, it's a title he's never held before. It gives him even more kudos than anybody else in the NWA. Tim Storm hasn't done it. Nick Aldis hasn't done it. Nobody in the NWA currently has held every single title. He isn't just a Grand Slam champion. He's like the Grand Slam +1. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Certified Hustler says he's seeing Kylie Ray, Tootie Lynn, and Danhausen this week. Cool, man. Give them my best. Not that any of them know who I am, right? Let's see. Heebs is in the house. Heebs. Glad you're here. Watching The Witcher. I tried to get into The Witcher, and I couldn't do that. We'll see how that goes. Willie says the NWA shouldn't have suspended Kinsey Page, Natalia Markova. What about her punishment? Yeah, that whole storyline is just a little bit of a head scratcher. Oh, Bobby. Okay. Khan and Moses are in the Shane Taylor promotions group. I thought that was O'Shea. I guess I was mistaken. Okay, you guys, yes. You're all telling me I get it. I'm stupid because I don't know my Ring of Honor tag teams. I get it. Jeez Louise. Anyways, but the Ring of Honor tag team champions will be a part of the Crockett Cup, and I do know them. I'm quite familiar with them. So I mean, it's an exciting time for the NWA. If you guys have been checking this out, I mean, look, we got the world title match tonight, and on top of that, then we have the rest of the show for tonight. Is actually looks pretty good too. I haven't seen a lot of hype for it, but you're gonna get Cyon versus Rinauro in a no disqualification match. Does that mean Judeus gets involved? I kind of hope so, because I really don't care about Rinauro versus Cyon. He isn't my pal, that's for certain. But that should be a fun opener, hopefully. I don't understand what the podium spotlight, let's just call this a promo. Let's just call this Kyle Durden time. Podium spotlight. What does that even mean? Now, Jennacide and Powell Ablaze are on the same side because, Taryn Terrell was able to magically, through her, good karma and I don't know. She was able to get them all on the same page, apparently. So what does Natalia Markova have in store? How does she fit in? I mean, that's kind of a story that I'm not sure how that all patches together because, again, Paola, Taryn Terrell, and Jennacide have seemingly reunited, and I don't really know how Natalia fits into that. Of course, the Ill Begotten versus the Dirty Sexy Boys. Now, the Ill Begotten have a victory over the Dirty Sexy Boys when the Team Fixers briefly joined the Ill Begotten. Basically, it was a payday for them. Left your boy Jay the God down and out, and put a hurting on a Dirty Dango to give the Ill Begotten their first victory. So we'll see how that all pans out. And of course, Trevor Murdoch versus Mike Knox, part 2. Now, do I feel like this is going to be a legitimate match? We're going to have no outside interference, no problems at all? No, absolutely not. I feel like this is just a means to keep progressing the storyline, keeping Matt Cardona and Trevor Murdoch at odds, but not in the ring. Notice how they're just kind of stalling with that. And I feel like that might be a bigger problem with the NWA when you've got a guy like Trevor Murdoch who should be out there punching people in the face, and all they do is really give him time to cut promos. So having him out there tonight in this matchup, at least we'll get to see more of what Trevor Murdoch is capable of, and hopefully get to see a genuinely good title match, although I just don't really feel like that's what's going to happen. More of your comments. Chris Drummond is here, my boy, Big Chris Dog, and he says that he wants, or not that he wants, but he's just giving us greetings from the MCWA, Matt Cardona. And he would like to see Cardona with the championship. I mean, you're not alone. I've heard a lot of people say that. A lot of people are, I get a lot of DMs about the NWA. And I don't mind talking to the NWA about the NWA with anybody. But some people, I think, feel like I have some sort of stroke or pull with what happens behind the scenes. I do not. I am not an insider for the NWA. Nobody there's taking what I have to say to heart. Nobody listens to your boy J Cal. I'm like you. I watch the show. I have an opinion, and I come on this podcast to talk about it. Matt Cardona has got legitimate buzz behind him right now. Matt Cardona has the wrestling community talking. I don't know if that's the NWA audience. I don't know if these are the same things. Now, Chris Drummond will argue that Matt Cardona is best for business. And that might be true. It might be true. I don't know how many more pay-per-views the NWA would have sold if Matt Cardona was challenging instead of Mike Knox. I don't know. But I do know this. Matt Cardona has a buzz about him. He's brought it from Game Changer Wrestling to Impact Wrestling and now the NWA. And if the NWA wants to try to jump in on that, I think it would benefit them in the long run. I don't know if I want Cardona to be the world's heavyweight champion, but I certainly want to see him and Trevor Murdoch lock it up in the ring. And if it's not going to be at POWERRR Trip, hopefully at the Crockett Cup. But we'll see. We'll have to wait and see. Let's see more of the comments. Bobby says Kiera Hogan is wrestling today at AEW Dark against Maserati. Maserati, is that the SoCal wrestler Maserati who wrestles in Las Vegas as well? She's actually, I saw her a few years ago wrestle against Ruby Reyes. Very quick, very nimble. She should have a fun match with Kiera Hogan. Terry McDermott says Cyon versus Sal and the loser gets sent off. Beat it, nerd. Kick rocks. I'm all for that, Terry. Actually, that'd be a good way to get rid of Sal off my TV for a bit. Lamb says the podium spotlight gives me vibes from that women's segment from the return season. Yeah, exactly. Is this something that needs to be on POWERRR? Is this something that I'm paying for that I'm going to be happy with? Do they do these segments just to kill time? Because it's hard to tell what kind of story they're trying to tell. Bobby Bettino says Marina Sharif is wrestling today on AEW Dark against Reka Taka. That Reka, I'm not sure if I'm saying her name right. Reka Tahaka. I saw her wrestle Heather Monroe on the first tapings from Championship Wrestling from Atlanta, and she's got the goods, man. I think she would be another excellent wrestler that the NWA should consider bringing in to challenge for Camille, because she's got all the goods, and I think in a match with Camille, you'd really have a couple of powerhouses in there. Hustler still, he's beating that drum, the Von Erichs and the Crockett Cup. I mean, hey, man, from your lips to Billy Corgan's ears, I would love to see Ross and Marshall as part of the Crockett Cup. I think the same thing that prevents 5150 from showing up is the same thing that'll keep Marshall and Ross from showing up, and that's their allegiance to MLW. I mean, they are signed to that company, and I don't see MLW's opening up their forbidden door to the NWA, but we'll see, man. I've been wrong before. Matt Mueller says, it's a promo-based promotion more so right now. The roster isn't deep yet. They lost a lot with COVID. The Crockett Cup needs to be a hit this year for the NWA. Matt, I agree 100%. Promos do drive this business. That's why Nick Aldis was so good in his role. People think that I used to hate on Nick Aldis. Nothing could have been further from the truth. The problem I had with Nick Aldis is he needed to be out there defending the title more. But I will tell you this, I will take a Nick Aldis defending the title, 6 times a year more than I will take Trevor Murdoch having 3 defenses in his short time as world's heavyweight champion. That belt needs to be out there. It needs to be out on the road. It needs to be seen. It needs to be exposed. And of course, the Crockett Cup will be a great place for the title to be defended. But what about when, these promotions in Texas that are running every other weekend? What about the promotions in Florida that are running every other weekend? I keep hearing from interview to interview that Trevor wants to go out there and defend the title. He wants to go to Saudi Arabia. He wants to go here. He wants to go there. But at the end of the day, that title needs to be defended not just on Power, not just on NWA pay-per-views. It needs to be defended around the world. That's what makes it a world's heavyweight championship. If it's only going to be defended in NWA promotions against NWA talent, then let's just call it the NWA title and drop this whole shenanigans of it being a world's heavyweight championship. It's not when it's not being defended. And I get we are in a global pandemic. There are travel restrictions. Trevor Murdoch can't just get on a plane and go to China or Japan. There's a lot more to it than that these days. But I mean, we're seeing announced just this week that Nick Aldis and Chris Adonis are heading back to Poland to have a match there based on the exchange they had a few months ago for the Polish promotion. Why can't we send Trevor Murdoch there with the 10 pounds of gold and wrestle against somebody from Poland? Things like this, I feel like these are missed opportunities. And if it's not the NWA standing in the way, then it's Trevor Murdoch. And if it's Trevor Murdoch standing in the way, then he needs to go. And if it's the NWA standing in the way, then they need to change their philosophy, because at the end of the day, the 10 pounds of gold needs to be defended everywhere. Woo! Y'all got me going on that one. Jody says, book Trevor versus Matt on POWERRR Trip. Let's see if they can boost the ticket sales. They still barely sell 400 tickets. Ooh, that's rough. Now, I don't know how big of a venue that Valor Hall is in Oak Grove, Kentucky. I would imagine there isn't a lot of pro wrestling heading through that area of Kentucky. So, 400 is not, first of all, it's not nothing. But at the same time, I think we all would like to see their shows sell out. Terry McDermott says, many fans are happy for Matt because Vince didn't do him right. Agreed. I totally agree with that. And in fact, he even said recently, like, he has no resentment towards the WWE, but he feels like the WWE has been development for the rest of his career. And if he never goes back to the WWE, that's totally fine. Like, there's a lot of wrestlers who made their names outside of the WWE. And I really feel like Matt Cardona could be one of those guys. But if he's going to be your world's heavyweight champion, then it's got to be for the right reasons. It's got to be because he's going to help project your company further. Nick Aldis took the belt off of Tim Storm, not because Tim Storm wasn't capable, but because Nick Aldis had that potential to grow the brand. Matt Cardona has that potential, but is he executing? Hell, Trevor Murdoch has that potential, but is he executing? Who is Trevor Murdoch bringing to the NWA these days? And if it's nobody, then we need to get someone who can. Bobby Matteo says Darius Lockhart looked great on NWA USA. Cool. Willie wants to point out that Taryn Terrell is a former Knockouts champion. Yeah. I mean, she has accolades, but in the world of pro wrestling, it's more of a what have you done for me lately? And the fact of the matter is there's not a lot. And Bobby says Maserati is a wrestler from Vegas, Nevada. Yeah, she's popped up a lot in SoCal too. I've seen her a few more times. He says, speaking of MLW, hopefully Davey Boy comes to the NWA instead. How awesome would it be if Davey Boy was challenging that POWERRR Trip Let's skip Matt Cardona. Davey Boy versus Trevor Murdoch. And I say that in jest because honestly, the match I want to see Jax Dane and Trevor Murdoch. I want to see some more NWA homegrown talents getting a shot at Trevor Murdoch. It's problematic to me that 3 guys who deserve a shot at that title have all like bowed out. Nick Aldis, who is supposed to get a rematch because he's the world's heavyweight champion, says, I'm going to let Trevor have his run. The Pope was one of the most popular guys on the roster, and it looked like he might get a shot at the 10 pounds of gold. He's been hurt, obviously. He got hurt at the last TV tapings, so we probably won't see him in any kind of shape to challenge for the title, which is a shame. But he would be another guy that would be him and Trevor, even though I know they're friends. I still think they should be in the ring fighting each other. Jax Dane was supposed to get that match. Didn't happen because of Mayweather's interference, knocked him out with one shot back in St. Louis. But then another guy that we don't talk about much is Adonis as the national champion. At any point, he's able to cash in a world title match. I mean, that was discussed very heavily back when Adonis and back when Aldis was still champion. And he had said multiple times that Adonis, all he has to do is fill out the paperwork. He can get a world title match. And then let's not forget Tyrus, although he has not gotten to that lucky 7, he's only like 2 more matches away from getting there, maybe 3. Okay, 3 more matches away from getting there. Tyrus versus Trevor, I mean, that's a family feud right there. Any one of those guys, I think, would be deserving of a title shot before a lot of these outsiders. But again, if Matt Cardona is available, if Davey Boy Jr. is available, I really feel like you need to get some names out there on your world's heavyweight champion. Big Dog Chris says the major free agents are going to go where the money is. This is true. I mean, don't hold your breath for Karrion Kross to come in through the doors anytime soon. Also, I don't think you're going to see Big Keith Lee show up. But if they do, holy crap, could you imagine Keith Lee and Trevor Murdoch? That would another banger of a match. Chris says that's because no one wants Trevor on their card. Now, there might be some truth to that. There very well could be truth in that, but I know promotions are out there looking for Trevor. You know, I've heard through the grapevine there's several wrestling promotions that would like Trevor to be there. I don't know what's standing in the way. If it's Trevor, if it's the NWA, if it's what's going on. Remember when he was national champion, he went to SWE Fury and defended that national title there. I know the people at SWE Fury are now working with Wrestling World Championship. Let me try that again. World Class Championship Wrestling Revolution. I'm not exactly sure what that company is called. If someone knows the name, please DM it to me because I can't ever remember it. But I don't know why that Trevor Murdoch wouldn't make an appearance there. That seems like it'd be right up his alley. Bobby Battista says he'd like to see only Lorcan and Danny Butch wrestle at the Crockett Cup. And then Lamb brings up a perfectly good point. If the promoters are not interested in Trevor Murdoch, then he can't defend anywhere. Exactly. Now, I don't know if that's the point, Lamb. I don't know because, like you said, there's other promotions out there that, for fact, want Trevor, want the 10 pounds of gold, but for whatever reason, it hasn't come to fruition. Davey says defended at least once every 3 to 4 weeks with a short clip of the match on YouTube. I think that would work. Sean Mega, another great point. You can't force anyone to take Trevor. If no one wants Trevor, then he's not going to go anywhere. But isn't that telling? Isn't that tell you almost everything you need to know? If nobody wants Trevor, then nobody wants Trevor. So maybe he shouldn't be the world's heavyweight champion. And this is coming from somebody who sees a ton of potential in Trevor Murdoch. I think that guy hasn't even scraped the top, the bottom of the barrel yet. I think he's got so much potential. I feel like he's going to be there. It's just someone needs to give him that opportunity. William Bowen says, what's the difference between a bottomless pit and Tyrus's appetite? Nothing. Good job, Willie. Lamb says, Matt Cardona's statements divide the NWA fan base about the NWA should go into the future. He is indeed a game changer. Ooh! I think that should be his nickname. Game changer Matt Cardona. That'd piss off everybody. Excuse me. The mayor says, are we actually getting a fresh title match or another one from the pay-per-view? No, this is going to be a real match. I mean, supposedly. I have my doubts because it's not the first time they've done something like that where they've promoted a match, but then it, because of a schmoz, some sort of run-in or some sort of interference, the match doesn't happen. I wouldn't be surprised by any of it. Our pal Dave Scooby says that he hopes Pollo Del Mar and Money, Power, Respect are at the Crockett Cup. I mean, that seems like an obvious choice because Pollo's connection to the NWA. She was at Empower managing, I forgot her name. Jenny. I can't remember her name. Sorry, guys. And then she also was at the Duval Brawl, working backstage, working in front of the camera for the Pope's charity show. I would not be surprised to see Pollo show up again. If she's managing Power, Money, and Respect, that's cool, but I wouldn't hold my breath for that. Although, again, with 16-man tournament, you're going to have to bring in some people who are there just to lose. And I don't mean disrespect to Power, Money, and Respect, but if you brought them in and they were out in the first round, I don't think anyone would lose much sleep over that. Sorry, my nose is itchy. Matt Mueller says Tom Latimer should be in the world title mix, having Aldis gun for the Crockett Cup with British Invasion, then have Aldis chase. Would have Adonis come up short first and maybe use Tyrus like that too. Yeah, look, that the World Championship, the title just needs to be defended. Gangrel was fine for the Duval Brawl, but at POWERRR Trip, it needs to be someone of some substance. If it's not Matt Cardona, then it needs to be somebody who carries weight. Maybe Tom Latimer. Oh, no, he's in the I Quit match, so it won't be Tom Latimer. It won't be Adonis. It won't be Tyrus. It could be Jack Stain, but again, Matt Mueller also says that Tom should be the next Hill champion. There's something to that, and I don't disagree with that. Then Terry McDermott says sometimes wrestlers' conduct hurts them with promoters. We don't see everything. Another good, fair point. But from all intents and purposes, the people that I know that know Trevor Murdoch speak very highly of him. Trevor Murdoch, for many years, worked for NWA in Hollywood. NWA, back then they were called NWA Pro Wrestling. They did the first set of the NWA showcase tapings where they featured Cade and Murdoch as a tag team. And then for years after that, Murdoch would work a lot of the shows that they were doing in the Pacific Northwest, actually teaming with Brent Albright against Adam Pearce. And I want to say, man, now the names escape me. Gosh, I can't think of his name. Anyways, doesn't matter. Not important. And then also was a part of the NWA Ohio State tapings, not tapings, live events. And this predated the Ohio State Fair show that Adam Pearce won the title. So he's been around for a while. And like I said, he's worked in the NWA promotions in the past. And nobody's ever seemed to have anything bad to say about him. I don't know who's to blame for this run. And like I said, we were complaining about all this, only defending the title 6 times in a year during a global pandemic. But, it feels like we're not getting a lot out of Trevor. And I don't know if it's the office or if it's Trevor. If it's the office, they need to stop. And if it's Trevor, he needs either to get going or get going, if you know what I mean. Lamb says Dave Marquez would book Trevor Murdoch if there wasn't a fallout. I think 100%. He would have. Yes, absolutely. If the NWA and the United Wrestling Network still had a relationship, which they don't, I guarantee you Trevor Murdoch would be on those shows. They just like they did with Aldis, just like they did with Tim Storm. Dave Marquez actually has a relationship with Trevor Murdoch, and I think the thing that's preventing him from working with Trevor is the fact that him and Billy do not. Dave Scooby says Crockett Cup would hopefully be some exposure for some lesser-known tag teams. Not every team is able to win just to look good in defeat. 100%. 100% agree with you, Dave Scooby. There's a lot of teams out there that you don't have to win this thing to look good. Bully Ray says it on Busted Open. There's going over and there's getting over. And you don't always need to go over to get over. And then we're going to wrap it up here. Willie Bowen says he wants to see Ruby Reyes, Vipers, and Heather Monroe on the NWA POWERRR roster. Bobby Battito says he wants to see Blonde Force Trauma versus Team Hex. Jody says dump Dave Marquez is the stupidest bridge burning in the history of professional wrestling. I couldn't agree more with you on that one. And then Heeb says almost 6:05, baby. See you in the fight chat if I can figure it out. Fingers crossed Austin Idol doesn't open the show. Agreed. Hey, guys, this will wrap it up. Do appreciate you guys being here each and every week. We'll see you on Thursday. Until then, we'll see you. Wait, hold on. Can't do it that way. There we go. We'll see you at the matches. Thanks for checking out the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. You should hit that subscribe button and join our community. I also want to remind you that we recap NWA POWERRR every Thursday at 8 p.m. in the live stream. We try to stay social, so find us at the Alliance blog. And until next time, we are the Alliance.